Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and typically we feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren. And if this is your first time coming upon this show, welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We ask that you go ahead, like, subscribe, share, follow anywhere you can find Hops Geek News. YouTube, we're really close to 1,000. And we are all over social media. We like to hang out, chat with you guys, join our Discord. If you want to support the show, you can get early ad-free episodes as well as exclusive movie nights where we just hang out and all watch a movie and bullshit together. And that's patreon.com/hopsgeeknews. Everything that we take in goes directly back into the show, whether it's merch, stickers, you name it. That's what it's for. And we like to go ahead and we talk about what we're reading or watching, and then we go into some news, and then we also go into our main topic. And today's main topic is, of course, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which just recently wrapped up last week. We have some thoughts. We've not really talked too much about it in depth because we would like to do that now. So, of course, my beer of the week, I'm going to go ahead. It's a very pirate-themed beer from Lauren. It's Ghost Blimp, one of her, if not all-time favorite beers from Tactical Brewing Company, a double New England IPA out of Orlando, Florida. It's been on the show multiple times. It's a 9%er. I felt this was a nice, appropriate beer as we are talking about Daddy Jod and the rest of the crew. So go ahead, Lauren. What do you have over there?
So I don't have a pirate beer, but I do have a Tactical Brewing beer myself, and it is Steamboat Mickey on a little swan. And so he's not in the ocean; he's on Lake Eola, which is here in Orlando. So yeah, Tactical is an Orlando brewery, and we, when this episode airs, we are less than a week away from Orlando Beer Week. They always do it in January, which I think is kind of genius because obviously dry January isn't so great for those small local breweries. So this is the City Beautiful, because Orlando calls themselves City Beautiful, the Orlando Mega Collab. So this has so many breweries: Red Light, Hourglass, Boegan's, Windermere Brewing, Ivanhoe, Toll Road, shout out to Scott, Park Pizza, Runabout, which is Gatlin Hall. They haven't reopened yet, but they're coming. 1010, Sideward, Crooked Can, Ravenous Pig, Home State, Rockpid, and another one that hasn't opened yet, Zymarium, and 12 Talents, which is new. I love them. So many breweries, and it's phenomenal. It's so good. It's a hazy IPA, and it's only, it's 7%. I thought it was 6. It's only 7%.
Only 7, kids.
Well, like yours is 9. So the guy who does a lot of the art for them, which he also does art for Freehand Goods, which I meant to send you a picture, because Freehand Goods, they're the ones that have the Jaws thing, but it's like beers. And I bought that shirt.
Oh, yeah.
They have an alligator Godzilla, because they do a lot of like Florida art. And I was like, I instantly thought of you when I saw the Godzilla. If you ever move back to Florida, I'm buying you that shirt.
I love that.
But Sleds is the guy who does the art. He did Ghost Blimp. He did this Mickey, which it's so cute. His little tattoo says my blood type is IPA. He's got a little tactical hat on. It's just adorable. And if you've ever been to Lake Eola in downtown Orlando, they have those giant swan boats that you can rent. And they have really mean swans. Swans are not nice people. They are not.
Oh, they're not. They're asshole creatures, man.
Yes, I had to hit one with a stroller one time. I tried everything to scare it, and it kept coming like at the blanket the children were sitting on eating their snacks. And I finally had to like tap it with the stroller to like get that.
They hurt too. Like, people don't realize, man, those things are evil. They hurt. They don't have teeth, but they still hurt.
Yeah. But they're so majestic and beautiful. But Lake Eola is actually a really cool spot if you're ever in Orlando. World of Beers right on the water there. Yeah, Persimmon Hollow was there, unfortunately, but there's a couple breweries downtown, and I'm going to be pouring it into, of course, my steam glass. I'm just finishing up my coffee because it's middle of the day Sunday. This is the latest we've ever recorded.
This is the latest. Now, typically, like I said, we give early episode releases to our patrons. However,
not this week.
This week was a little rough. There's a lot going on, schedule wise. So unfortunately, we're recording it the day before it actually comes out. So everything's pretty up to date. However, we are going to do our Patreon movie night tonight, which doesn't help anybody now, but each month we are. And going from there, we are going to go into what we've been reading or watching. And so comic book reviews, we'll start there for nerdinitiative.com. As you know, we are editors over there. I run the movie and TV division. So I just released actually Harley Quinn season 5, my spoiler-free review. I got to watch the whole first season. We're on the 5th season now. And I got to say, for a show that's entering its 5th season, it still feels really fresh as far as the comedy goes. I really enjoy the characters. Harley and Poison Ivy's relationship kind of hits a rut in this, and they go to Metropolis, and which this is all what they put in the previews. And if you've watched the first episode, which is out now, you would see this. And it's really good. They introduce some new characters. They bring in some more mythos behind Superman. And, Kaylee Cuoco is doing a really great job. So for, like I said, a show that's going into it.
Who's she voice? She voices Harley?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. I didn't know that. Good for her.
She's awesome, and the show is great. Bane, you still get some of that action in there, and a lot of the comedy still sticks. And there's some more lore into Poison Ivy too, which I think is excellent. But aside from, I've read Alien Paradiso issue number 2 from Marvel Comics. This issue is basically they are on the planet. It's a paradise planet. There's a sting operation. It goes wrong. The aliens are on the loose. And what's really cool is it's basically what would happen in real life here. People complaining about their vacations being ruined and not knowing why. But there is a really insane, mind blowing, if you will, scene where the alien, everybody knows an alien, they stick their little thing out there
The
to
face sucker.
it comes out the alien's throat. It's not the face hugger. Those are like the little
Oh.
babies that go around and implant eggs. This comes from the actual xenomorph. That's like their tongue thing that shoots out. Well, it shoots right through this person's head, and it's this one shot panel. And it's so detailed. It is so effing good. It's crazy. It's some of the bloodiest, goriest action I've seen in a comic, but it's so damn good. Read that. I've read Batman and Robin Year One, issue number 4. Mark Waid is on that team. It's from DC Comics, of course. I've been reading that. It's really continuing along the relationship that Batman and Robin have because it's their first year together. Bruce has gone on and adopted, Dick, and so that's a really good one. Nothing too crazy there. Just continuing along great. The Moon is Following Us, number 5. Riley Rossmo, Daniel Warren Johnson, Mike Spicer. This is from just God, it's Image. And man, this wraps up the first arc. There's a cliffhanger and it's really good. There's some betrayal. It's got action. It's got a really sad death scene that really sticks considering the circumstances of these are all funny stuffed animals from the daughter Penny's head, but it really works. And then, like I said, it ends on a cliffhanger, which is pretty dope. It's the end of the first arc. You can catch up. The trade's probably going to be coming out soon. I imagine the next few months, because that's typically how that works. I would recommend reading this. It's so good. And then the last thing I read, man, was Ultimate Wolverine.
I haven't read it yet.
Wow.
I want to because I want to read the actual comic, and I just haven't had a chance to get to the comic book shop this week.
Boo this girl. It's from our friend Chris Condon, who is the writer. And
I don't want to hear. I don't want. Obviously, I don't want spoilers because I know it's going to be in my box. I didn't even have to ask them. I know it'll be there.
But it's really gnarly, dude. Really gnarly.
I'm excited though to hear you like gung ho.
It's good. The artwork was pretty gruesome and vicious and violent, and there's a lot of intrigue and mystery around this version of Wolverine. And I can't spoil it more because Lauren hasn't read it. So that's what I've been reading and reading. We'll get to watching in a minute. Lauren, what have you been reading?
So I did finish that book, The Dead Zone. That is not a Steven Spielberg book. It is a Stephen King book. Yes. So that was really like interesting. So it's basically like this young guy is in his early 20s and he's on a date with this girl, and he has like they're at some carnival, and it's in like I think the 60s and maybe the 70s. So somewhere around there. It was out during Vietnam. And around that time, Steven Spielberg. My
God, Lauren, Stephen King.
Quite a bit about it. I know. I'm sorry. I said it once and now I can't not say it. So he has like this kind of like premonition, and he's playing this like betting game, and he's doing really good. Ooh. And then later that day, he gets into a car accident, ends up in a coma. And later on, like when he wakes up, he has this kind of like gift or a curse, you could call it, where he can sometimes sense things that are going to happen. And it's very interesting because there's a huge political thing about it. Jimmy Carter makes an appearance in this book, which, I was reading this the week he passed.
R.I.P. in peace.
And so it was really interesting to hear that. He's like, as soon as I shook his hand, I knew he was going to be president. And, spoilers, he was president.
Wow.
So but then it has some dark politicians, and it goes down this very like dark road. It was very interesting, and they describe what the dead zone is. It has to do with his coma kind of thing, but it was really cool. It was very sad, but it was also very good, very intense, very mysterious. So I liked it. And it's an older one. It was one like my mother-in-law, when she's like, "Oh, you're reading Stephen King books, just take this." And I mean, one of the pages is like the cover's like falling off, but it was a great book. I really liked it. So my comic book reviews this week though were I did do a Wolverine one. I did Laura Kinney, number 2. And
how was that one? That
That one's Erica Schultz and Giada Belviso. That one was really good. So the first one I liked, but the second one I loved. So
Okay.
she's back in New York because, this is after Fall of Krakoa. The mutants are still
Mhm.
figuring out where they should go, what they should do. And obviously, Laura is very much so like Wolverine, like Logan,
Yeah.
whereas she's not going to deal with her emotions. She's just going to help other people. And that's how she's going to move on. Whereas Wolverine says he's not helping other people, but he is helping other people, and that's how he moves on. Laura at least is very aware that, like, yes, I want to help other people. And so she goes to go help some mutant, and she ends up in Hell's Kitchen. And, well, whose territory is Hell's Kitchen?
Oh my
Not
God,
hers.
that's obviously King. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So Elektra shows up and she's now Daredevil. So we have a Wolverine Daredevil like kind of fight, but they end up teaming up together. And there's more like there's politics going on in this, and we get to hear about and meet some other very famous New York Marvel superheroes. And I absolutely loved these two together. I thought they were great. Every single page was like full on action, yet such great dialogue at the same time. Every page was absolutely gorgeous because sometimes when they're doing like fighting scenes, some things like look a little awkward. This
Yeah.
was all phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. It's only on issue 2. The last Laura run I read, I don't remember specifically which one it was, and I don't even want to say, but I didn't love it. I almost felt like it was for a younger audience because Laura's young, but she's not a child. And so I
Right.
really, really like this. I feel like this is more like not like your kids can't read it, but it's more grown up and has more like grown up kind of issues going on.
Yeah,
So,
no, I think that makes
and
sense.
the
Yeah.
other one I reviewed this week was The Brood from Dark Horse Comics. This is another spinoff of Minor Threats. So this was the second issue. This one too, I really liked the first issue. The second issue I fell in love with. So The Brood he's a self-proclaimed most genius super villain out there, but he's older and he's facing his own potential death. And it's, seeing how he's dealing with that, seeing how he's got a wife and 3 kids. These kids are grown, but this specific episode was all about his daughter, who is the middle child, who claims to be more intelligent than him. But it was very interesting because we got more history. They're tying more things across the entire Minor Threats universe. We're learning more about one specific character, which has been in every single of the alternates, Minor Threats and Minor Threats Fastest Way Down and Barfly. Like, we've seen her all over. So it's really kind of cool to see them tie all this together, but it's still a very centralized story at the same time. That is The Brood. These comics are not for kids, but I'm loving this. And the second issue I thought was so much better than the first. The first was great, but the second issue, so freaking good. Loved both of them. And the script now, that's world created by Jordan Bloom and Patton Oswalt. The
Yeah.
script was Heath Corson, and the art for this was Ian J. Colbard. But the story plotting was Heath, Patton, and Jordan. So they're still very much so involved in this world.
Well,
I took a long time to say all that. So that's what I've read.
That did take forever. Well, what have you been reading lately then?
You mean watching?
That's what I meant. What have you been watching lately?
Creature Commandos, which was not too easy to finish.
What do you think about the show?
I don't know how to feel or think. I did like that the bride called Mr. Morpheus. At one point she calls him Jack Skellington, and another point she called him Ghost Rider, which means the Marvel comics exist in
Well, I think DC exists in the Marvel universe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We found that out. Yeah.
Yeah, they've talked about I think about Batman or
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It was weird. We'll see how this progresses. But like the one scene where you see like Batman, which has been everywhere now, I'm like, whoop-de-doo. We knew he had to exist in this.
We already knew all this.
DC
Yeah,
universe.
it doesn't tell us anything about Batman yet because obviously we knew he was there. We knew that, but we just don't know anything else about him. And I just felt like the tones couldn't decide what it wanted to be. So I guess that's why I kind of didn't really love it too much. If you liked it, great. I mean, I'm not going to hate on you at all about that. But for me, it was
like I felt like I was supposed to love it, and I should have loved it.
I feel like I should have loved it, but I just didn't.
And I don't know. It's almost like some of the humor too was like cliche and expected. Mm-hmm. It was like, we're supposed to put this in. Okay, well, I feel like anybody could have that's seen enough of these types of things knows, insert joke here.
Yeah.
I did watch Joker too.
Oh God.
I didn't hate it.
What?
It wasn't what I expected. So what I thought was going to happen was that they were both in the insane asylum and they were going to be dancing around like the rec room, and it would cut to like their imagination, and their imagination would be a full-out musical. That's what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's still, I don't like how it went. I don't like how Harley
It
was. I thought
felt
that was kind of weird.
pointless.
Yeah, I felt like it fell flat, but I feel like the first one, it's a tragedy. It's the mental health issues. It is a tragedy. And I do feel like they did still harp on that in the second one, that it is still a
Yeah.
tragedy. The one thing I don't know is if she was lying about a certain something happening to her and if they were setting that up for the future.
Yeah, I have
I don't
no
want to say
idea.
too much because I know a lot of people still haven't seen it, but I didn't hate it. I feel like, am I going to watch it again? No. But I don't regret watching it. Josh was like, "So that was a movie?" Like,
It was one of the worst movies I have seen
see, I don't
last
think it
year.
was the worst, but it was
Maybe I set you
nowhere
up
what
to,
I
like, think it was gonna be
call it.
awful. Maybe you're welcome. I helped you.
Well, I guess I liked like I liked the darkness of it. I liked,
Yeah,
I thought Jaquan Phoenix did a great job still, like portraying this character. But I guess it's kind of hard to top what he did in the first one. But you saw some real life issues with, like, the
yeah,
guards beating them, not looking at them like they're human. Uh, and you saw, like, how just still so mentally ill he is. And the one
mhm,
the one guy he had worked with before, like, that was on the stand, like, that was, like, tragic. And
yeah,
he's like, "You were the only one that didn't make fun of me." So it was like, yeah, I enjoyed it. Again, I'm not gonna watch it again, but
fair,
I did enjoy it.
fair. What else you got?
Shrinking.
Yeah? Do you finish the season 2?
I did, I finished it.
Yeah? Oh my god. Alright, let's hear it. What'd you think?
Oh, I loved it. I don't like the other Derek, though. I thought other Derek was a dick, and I
I
kinda
agree.
thought Gabby's mom was being a dick too. And,
Both were definitely I feel like that's the good thing about this, right, is no character is without faults, but I definitely didn't like those 2 the most.
here's the thing, though, no character is without faults, and that's what's cool about the show is they all come around and admit their faults and own up
Oh,
to
yeah.
them because they're therapists or being, or are in therapy. However, those 2 don't admit shit. They
No?
both think they're right, and they think that they're just being nice to Gabby and forgiving Gabby. They're both I don't do guilt trips, and that mother, like, just the guilt trip was like, turning my stomach. And then he was very self-righteous. I didn't hate him at the end. It
Yeah.
was when he, like, walked out on her and he said something mean to her, and I'm gonna
Well,
keep
she
it
was
subtle,
like, "I'm
obviously,
afraid
because
to
I don't,
open up," basically,
and
and
she's telling him and being honest with him, and he was a dick.
he was an asshole about it in response, and that's why I was like, "Dude, you just completely validated the way she was feeling, but
Yeah,
not in
and
the
then it
right
was
she
she felt
wouldn't." Yeah.
bad. No, I didn't like that at all. And, like, we're calling him other Derek. Derek is
Ye
like, Derek would never do that.
I felt bad for our Derek in this damn season.
I did.
He's the best character and the most pure character, and my dude got put through the ringer because his wife was kind of just an a-hole in her own right, but he doesn't deserve any of it. He's
No.
like the one who isn't. Yeah, no.
I thought they did that good though. She made mistakes, she admitted it, and she was going through her own shit. Did what
Well,
she did was right?
right.
No, God no.
Could
But,
have went about it
she's,
better, but
yeah, she had put all of her, like, whole life being a
into
mom,
being a mom, yeah.
which she, is not exactly praised in society quite often. It's called,
No.
oh, you're just a mom. Oh, yeah. So I thought that they handled it really well, and we got a brewery scene.
We did, yes.
He's like, "Oh, this beer is delicious." I don't want to say anymore. We're gonna ruin it because I know
Yeah,
a lot of
okay.
people haven't watched it. So
We'll let well, the season is over, obviously, so we'll let it some time to rest. I really enjoyed that show. We'll talk about it here again soon, and then it looks like, you got Severance?
yeah, I got a little bamboozled though with Severance because I thought 2 seasons were done. So I was watching season 1 because everybody kept talking about it, and then I watched the
Oh,
first episode
season
of
2 just
season
started,
2.
yeah.
Yes, I didn't know that, and they're like, "Next episode's next Friday." I'm like, "What
I've never
shit?"
watched it. Carrie's big into that show. I haven't watched it, but yeah,
So it
they're
is very good. Well, so you know the concept.
yeah.
So you have your brain severed. So when you're at work,
You go to work and you don't remember anything from the outside, it's just straight
right?
work. Yep.
And at home, you don't remember anything from the inside. So
Yep.
Adam Scott is your main character. But what's tragic is, like, so these people who only work, that's all they know. It's like they close their eyes and open them and they're back at work the next day.
Mhm.
So obviously that can, and there's some politics about the whole
Yep.
situation. There's some personal shit about the whole situation. So it is very interesting. It's very cool idea. Cause, like, yeah, if you're not the one that's working, I mean, granted, it's you both times, but, like, you wake up and you're like, hey, I just worked 8 hours and I didn't have to work 8 hours. I slept through it.
Yeah,
Win win.
exactly. It's one of those interesting concepts because I'm not sure overall, like how would you feel if that was real life,
No.
and but there's things you take from work that are good, for better or for worse, both things. It influences how you work and how you get better as a person potentially, or
Right.
choices. And so it is an interesting, I like the concept. I just didn't watch it. Carrie watched the first season, so I haven't seen it, but Apple TV's crushing it between Silo, Shrinking, Severance.
I
Apple
did
TV
start
slept on,
Silo.
man. Apple
Josh
TV
falls
really
asleep
slept
in
on.
everything, so we just keep
Story of
starting
my
new
life.
shows every night, and he falls asleep, and I keep watching and don't sleep. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm done.
No, you're good. Let's go into, so I've watched the
Oh,
first
it's
episode
Venom.
and a half. Well, hold on. I watched the first episode and a half of Goosebumps, the new season. So far, really good. David Schwimmer's
Oh,
in it. He looks interesting because he looks old. It's weird, I guess, because I
he
haven't
is
really
old
seen
now,
him in a lot of
yeah.
things. So he looks old, but they gave him a haircut that almost tried to make him feel like a younger person, but he just looks old. And that's no knock to him. In my mind, he's always
Ross.
Ross, or he's Band of Brothers young in my head. Because the most time you do see David Schwimmer, they're commercials for one of the two, or, Friends is brought up in some regard, or a meme. So in my head, when I saw him, I was like, wow,
He's 58.
woof. Yeah, I mean, he's old, man. That's what happened. That's time. But this one's a
58's
little
not
bit
that
darker.
old.
No, but this season so far is a lot
Oh, he's
darker.
tall, he's 6'1".
It's pulling from, I can't remember the name of it now, but when the dad was in the basement, he was working on the botanical gardens, and like the flowers and things kind of came to life and all that. That's pulling from that a little bit with some other things. So far, I like it. It's little bit more serious than the first season was. The first season was a little goofy, but good. This one's a little bit more played straight, a little bit more horror aspect, if you will, a little more adult themed. So I'm really enjoying that. And then I did watch Venom: The Last Dance. I
Dun, dun,
guess my
dun.
overall thoughts about that movie was it was just pointless. There was no point to that movie. There was absolutely no point. It doesn't impact a
Still
larger
on my
universe.
to-do list.
It doesn't impact the Sony universe. It doesn't impact the Marvel universe. It just was a movie. It's hard to say without
It
really
just was a
spoiling it,
movie.
but it,
Was
honest
that
to
what
God,
Sony's
it
doing
just
now, is just
felt
doing these
pointless.
standalones?
Well, they introduced the character of Null, but as the whole movie wraps up, this isn't like a Thanos situation. So, spoiler alert, Null literally was pointless in the whole movie. He doesn't do it. And so I don't, unless they're bringing him to the MCU at some point, which I don't know. Otherwise, there's no
Well, they
point.
left the Venom dark matter in the end of Endgame.
So they must be, hopefully, then. But other than that, it was just point. It was
Was it?
just
No, it was the end of
pointless.
Spider-Man No Way Home. My bad.
There was
Yeah, I don't
just
know what's going
pointless.
on.
I don't really know how to say it. It's harder to explain than there was no point. So let's go into some news real quick. We'll take a quick commercial break and be right back with some news. Now, the news. The news is
Da-da-da.
back. How do you feel about a Goonies and Gremlins movie that's in the works? I believe they're going to
Okay,
be sequels to those movies, or
so I
remakes.
at first thought it was a Goonies Gremlins like mashup movie. I was
No,
like, "Oh, that's
no, good
fucking
lord.
weird," but
Actually,
I'll watch it.
I would be on board with that if we can get the kids. If this came out when the kids were still kids, I'm sure.
But like when people were passing it around, I really thought it wasn't until I was putting it in the doc and I actually read it properly. I was like,
You're like, oh,
"Oh, this so it's sequels for both." I'm like indifferent to both. I will probably end up watching both because why the hell not? But yeah, I really thought it was Goonies and Gremlins, and I'm like, this is gonna be like this might end
no,
up being
it's
amazing. Who knows?
yeah, no, not at all. Unfortunately, no. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but I do know how I feel about the Daredevil trailer we got. Did you watch
I
it?
didn't watch it. Nope.
Oh,
I'm not gonna.
Lauren, what the?
I haven't been watching the Captain America ones either.
All right,
I want to
well,
be surprised. I want as many surprises as possible.
how are we supposed to talk about that? What do you want me to do? Take your earplugs out? I don't know. Take your
Take your
headphones out, I guess.
earplugs out.
My God, like,
You
what
want
do
me
you
just
want
be
me to
like, la
do? I
la la
want to talk
la.
about this for a second,
You
but
can tell me how you felt about it and
I
everything.
feel very excited personally. I think that the
I'm
tone,
very excited.
they made a point to show that this ain't your son or your kid's Daredevil. There are
By the
bones
way,
being
yep.
snapped in every other part of that trailer. The tension between Fisk and Matt was right there. We got characters being introduced and
I mean, I
like
know
Muse and
I saw the first one.
Bullseye
Yeah, I
and
know
White
Muse.
Tiger, and they're all there. And so it's really interesting to see how all these characters come together. Frank Castle,
I cannot
Karen
wait to see him
Foggy.
again. Or
It
them
looks
again.
so damn good. I cannot wait for this show to come out. It's going to be so freaking good.
No,
I
this is my number one for 2025,
Yeah,
hands down.
it's really gonna be good. The trailer made it look tonally really damn good. So
And we will
that's
be
my thoughts on it.
recapping Netflix
Yes.
beforehand.
We will,
Good.
we will. I need to
I'm
rewatch it.
glad.
So, all right. Why don't you dive into some of the news that you know about then?
The news that I do know about, March 14th, we have Black Mirror will be coming back with 6 new episodes. Which you never got. Did you watch Black Mirror?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I like Black Mirror. It's a good. I didn't realize it was coming back though.
Yeah, they seem to come back like out of nowhere, and then I mean, because they're kind of like mini movies, because they're usually like an hour,
Essentially,
if
they're all
not more
standalone
long.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, some of it kind of crosses over, and but not really so much. Although I did hear, I think they're going to be doing a sequel of that like Star Trekky version
Oh.
where they make the copy of that one was like tragic when they made like the copy of the sun and like put the sun out the airlock or whatever. Like
Yep. Yep.
that was crazy. And I'll talk about Invisible, and then I'll give you the Star Wars news. Invisible season 3 starts February 6th with the first 3 episodes, and we'll drop one each week thereafter until March 13th. I think it's interesting how
Yes.
Amazon does that. They're like, all right, we know you want
That
all
is
these,
weird.
but we're just going to give you 3.
And then you're gonna wait 6 more years for the next season because Amazon takes their sweet time, man. Yeah,
Yep.
Rory McCann, who you know as the Hound, will be replacing Ray Stevenson in Ahsoka as Balin Skull. I like that casting. It's not one I would have picked, but I really do like that casting, and I'm glad we're continuing with Balin because there really seemed like there was a lot of story there to tell, and this
Yeah,
is
I
one of those
loved
instances
him.
that you could absolutely recast and continue the story on with.
Yeah, and he was such like a great like great character, and
And
Ray
he brought up a
Stevenson
lot of
did
good
such
points,
a good
man.
job. Yeah, he really
He did.
did. It's I feel like with every issue where it's clearly good guy, bad guy, the person
Yes.
who's not clearly good guy, bad guy is usually the one who's has the most common sense.
Oh yeah.
But I only know him as the Hound, so it'll
That's
be
all I know
interesting.
him for. No, he was have you seen Hot Fuzz?
Oh my gosh, if I
Pretty
did, it
sure
was like
he's in
when it
Hot
came
Fuzz.
out.
If I remember correctly,
That
he's
has
in some of those
Simon,
movies.
Pegg,
Simon
right?
Pegg and Nick Frost, yes. Simon Pegg goes from London as a big time cop to this small town, and there's like a cult. Freaking amazing movie. I love that movie. One of the
He's
best
in
comedies of all
that.
time. I'm pretty sure that's him in that one. Yes. He is in that movie, but I don't really know him from anything other than Game of Thrones. So that's all I know him
Right.
from. And I'm totally in. I hope he calls. Never mind.
I see you next Tuesday.
Yes. Oh God.
So Moana 2 has passed 1 billion globally.
I
Wow.
feel like that's quietly because that movie was not as bad. It just kind of came and went. And nobody really talked about it. So the fact that it
Logan's
passed a
still talking
billion,
about it.
I thought it was a good. Yeah. Harper asked me daily, what are my favorite songs from it? I'm like, I don't know any of the songs from the movie because none of them are memorable and I don't know the names, but I liked the movie. And so there's that for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Logan just like singing it at the top of his lungs. We're at Epcot the other day, and I'm like, Logan, take it down a notch. And of course, people
Yeah.
are like, oh, that's so cute. It's so funny. I'm like, it's not on repeat.
At this
Just
point, no, it's not.
screaming that the ocean calls him.
Well, I'm screaming about this. David Lynch has passed away, who you knew he did the original Dune movie.
The original, the one from the
Yeah.
80s?
Yeah.
Oh,
Amongst
wow.
others, he was a real true visionary, very great director. He has unfortunately passed away, yes, which was, I think we kind of knew because he had cancer, I believe, but it kind of came faster than I think a lot of people realized.
Oh, that's a shame.
But RIP to him. Great director, great visionary. He brought us a lot of good stuff.
So runtime of Captain America is going to be 1 hour and 58 minutes. So that's going to be a shorter runtime than I think we're used to for
Which
Captain America movies.
I guess it's only 6 minutes shorter than the first Avengers film, which I didn't think about. So
Oh, wow.
that's what I was
And
saying.
they
So
did a
when you
lot
put
in
it that
there.
way, right? When initially I was like, that feels like it's going to be rushed for a lot of things, and somebody pointed that out, and I was like, oh, all right. Well, thank you for pointing that out because I didn't realize that. I'm on
Right, we got
board.
used to like Endgame that's like 3
Well,
hours long and should have
right.
an intermission.
And not every movie needs to be 2.5 hours
No,
long. I
not at
just
all.
started to feel as though they were introducing a lot into this movie, and then the runtime came out less than 2 hours, which we're not used to, and I was
Isn't Deadpool
worried.
and Wolverine less than 2?
I think it's right around 2. So
But I think they're pulling back a little, which I'm is
I'm
yeah,
fine with. Listen,
it's
I'm all
fine
good
and
with.
mean.
just as long as they do him a good, they don't just do a disservice to him. I'm all about. And then some more superhero news. David Krumholtz, who he was the head elf in the Santa Claus.
Bernard.
And Bernard,
And he's
yes.
in Harold and Kumar.
And Emily Beecham, who I know that name, but I'll be honest, I didn't take the time to look up what else she's been in because I rushed to put this news in. And then Millie Alcock is from Game of Thrones. She's also our Supergirl. They will all be in Superman, James Gunn's Superman, releasing this year. Emily Beecham and David Krumholtz are going to be Supergirl's parents. And then obviously Millie is our Supergirl.
Okay, okay. And I know I'm going to sound like a total hypocrite because I have a daughter who's 21, but like they seem too young to be Supergirl's parents.
You don't.
She's only 40, and I feel like I remember him. Like I feel like
How
Bernard
old
is just too young.
Bernard will forever be the same age that I have seen him in Santa Claus. But how old is Millie?
She's 40. Oh, Millie, I don't know. Hold on, I'm looking at. I don't know anything else that Emily Beecham has done.
Yeah,
she's in Cruella.
Oh,
28
okay.
Weeks Later.
Oh, okay. Then that's maybe where I know her from because 28 Weeks Later is good.
Shot Outside the Wire. Yeah, I don't really know too many of these. And Millie, which one's Millie Acock?
She's our Supergirl, man. She's from Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. She's House of Dragon.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was. Oh, good for her.
Yeah, she's our Supergirl.
Yeah, she's got to be little.
Young, so I was about to say it's probably not that far off from you and Kaylee.
I know, but I don't know. That's why I said this is going to make me sound like a hypocrite. Why don't I see her age?
All right,
I literally Googled her age.
Why don't you go in and tell us about some Megacon news while I look this up?
Okay. So we got some more announcements for Megacon, which is in like 2.5 weeks at this point. Nicholas Hoult is coming, so you might know him as the Young Beast. I think that would be a really fun panel. I really hope they do a panel with him. I think that'll be really cool. We're also getting Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan has done all the scary stuff on Netflix, so he does some great stuff. And Katie Siegel has been in many of those, if not all of them.
She's been in all. Aren't they married in real life?
Oh, I don't know. Are they?
I think they are.
But I think that'll be really cool. We'll get some horror stuff going, especially because we're hosting a horror panel Friday, which we should do that Friday. That would be cool. We also have Ella Purnell, who you might know from Fallout or Yellow Jackets.
Yes. This actor that you're about to say, this is his first ever North American appearance.
Yes, and this is a perfect segue into Skeleton Crew. We are getting Jude Law.
I'm excited. He's going to be $1 million, but I'm excited for that one. I love that Jude Law's doing it. And real quick, before we segue, Millie is only about to be 25. She was born in 2000, April 2000.
Okay, so she's about to be, that's too young. So this mom, I get that Supergirl's older when she comes to Earth. Whatever. These parents are too young. How old is Bernard?
Kids these days. I don't know. I didn't look that up. So, but yeah, Jude Law is coming. Okay. I'm pretty excited for that. I'm not going to be able to afford to meet him because usually when you get those
46.
Yeah. When you get those kind of actors coming to these, they're like $500. So, and he's going to be hidden away from everybody too.
I'm not doing any professional anything like that. No.
Oh no, we're paying for the Supernatural cast individually at their tables. Yes.
Yeah, all of them. We'll still end up paying $1 million.
We'll see. Anyways, let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with our main topic, which is Skeleton Crew. All right. Skeleton Crew. We're back. Now, this is a show that just released on Disney Plus. Really good. And the premise is 4 kids make a mysterious discovery on their home planet that leads them to getting lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy that created by Christopher Ford and John Watts. It stars Jude Law. And then we have Ryan Kira Armstrong as Fern, Kirana Crater as KB. We have Robert Timothy Smith as Neil, who you would also know from Dear Santa, if you've watched that. We've got Ravi Cabot Conyers as Wim, and then Nick Frost is SM33. So this takes place in between episodes 6 and 7. We're kind of exploring more of that in between the sequel and the old trilogy. And so this is kind of how this goes. It's about 5-ish years after Endor. We weren't really too sure, but it is 8 episodes. And I am so ready to gush about this. So episode 1, this could be a real adventure. This is where we meet everybody. we get to know a bit about At-Aten, which is basically the suburbs of, space suburbs, essentially. They got a bus, they got school systems. It's kind of like we talked about on our live before. It felt like The Giver, in that they have to take a test to decide if they're going to be in which jobs they're going to be on. And there's a barrier that surrounds the planet. Nobody really knows about it. And Wim is late for school because he has to take a test, but he wakes up late. So he hops on his bike. He saw Fern and KB take a shortcut once, so he decides to take that shortcut, and this is where he stumbles upon a mysterious ship. And from that point, he thinks it's a Jedi temple, and we kind of get some shenanigans where Fern and KB see and overhear him talking about it because he gets to retake the test, and he mentions how he thinks it's a Jedi temple, and they meet up. They call claimsies. He gets Neil involved, KB involved, everybody gets involved. They go into the ship. And unbeknownst to them, it is a ship, and it takes off as his dad kind of watches helplessly as this ship is taking off outside the barrier into the galaxy.
Into the unknown.
Very strong first episode. I liked the first episode. That was great. There was a lot of cool things in it. What do you think? What made you? Did it suck you in right away? Because some people we've talked to were basically like, it kind of sucked me in right away. It kind of didn't. I'm not sure how to feel, but I thought it did.
It immediately sucked me in. I just thought it was such a good portrayal of like Star Wars, because anytime you have like, look at our country, like there are parts of the country and parts of the world where people are starving and people are at war and terrible things are happening. And there's parts of the country and parts of the world where everybody's just moving on with their life and living in suburbia, and everything day to day is completely normal. And you're completely unaware, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that these terrible, horrific things are happening other places. So I feel like it was just a good representation of, honestly, life. The only difference is theirs is on different planets and ours is all in the same. But it's also funny too, because it's like we have the Arctic and we have the desert and we have the Caribbean all on the same planet, and all these planets. This is an ice planet. This is a
I know all these planets have the same biomes. While for us, it literally is like that. We have so many things on this. We've got the hottest place on Earth is like Death Valley, and then the highest winds that are cold ever recorded are right up in New Hampshire, for example. So you're right. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's always funny how they do that. And like you see that in Dune too. Not Dune 2, Dune as well. But no,
sand planets, or Tatooine is sandy, whatever.
And I love sand because I'm not a villain.
I don't.
But I really loved how they did the houses and everything. I'm like, this is exactly like if I had to imagine in my head what a Star Wars house would look like for a middle class family. This is it. And I'm really hoping at MegaCon someone sells that little blue elephant, like St. Pauli girl
Neil,
thing, because I want that. It was in like Neil's dad's garage or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, I want that so bad. So I'm really hoping somebody at MegaCon is selling that.
I'm sure somebody will, without a doubt.
Eventually, but not that stuff doesn't always hit right away. But I saw people posting about it right away too when I noticed it. I love that we got DJ Rex. I know I talked about this on our live. That's a great nod to Disney. DJ Rex was originally in Star Tours. Now you can visit him at Oga's Cantina. I don't think his name was DJ Rex on Star Tours, but it is now that he's in the Cantina.
I don't think he had a name, really.
Right. And there's different versions of him all over in the line at Star Tours still.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought that was so fun to see him driving the bus and whatnot. So that was really cool.
I hope we get an At-Aten Star Tours ride, like version. You know how they updated it? I hope we get one of those versions at some point, because that'd be fun.
Yeah, I could see them doing that, but I feel like they need to wait for a bunch of stuff, because like they just added Andor and Ahsoka and Mando.
Yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon for sure. And this for
like in 10 years.
Kind of lame that this was again a lower viewership, which I think just speaks to where Star Wars is kind of at in general right now, where there's not a lot of hype behind Star Wars because it kind of feels directionless. But I think this show did a really good job, because I've not seen a negative thing about this show at all. I just haven't, from all the social medias. And so I really think that this show has done a really good job of sparking that interest kind of back in for people again. So I'm hoping they start to really bring things together, when I'll get to kind of as we get through the discussions. But yeah, episode 2 takes us out past the barrier. This is where we meet SM-33, who we called Smee. And it takes
shout out to DT, because he put that together. I did not put that together on my own.
This takes us to the kids pirate, or the kids to the pirate-esque type port where they flash some credits. They end up in jail. This is where they actually meet Jod, and who uses the Force and escapes them. And this is where Wim really gets on board with he's a Jedi. Oh my gosh! And that's
He
really
sees
where
him like move the key.
he's like, "Why
The way
couldn't you
he,
do that beforehand? Why didn't you?
yeah,
Why'd you wait so long?" And he's like, "Well, I didn't have a ship." Makes a
right.
lot of sense to me.
But I love how they like take the hood off and like reveal. And just so you know, guys, we're doing spoilers for all the episodes.
Oh
When they
yes,
like do that, and you're like, oh, you're supposed to be like, oh, he's a Jedi. So they really like set us up to bamboozle us, and I honestly love that because I
they
don't
did.
want to be able to predict what's going to happen next.
No, and I actually don't think I properly predicted what was going to happen in this. Rightfully so, is
No,
awesome.
yeah, my
And
theory, the garbage theory, but I was scared it was going to happen, and it didn't, and I'm really happy that it didn't.
yeah, so episode 3, it takes us from there. Jod acts like he's helping the kids. He gets 33. They all help get away from the pirate port, and this is where we go to the planet where we meet the owl lady who calls the X-Wings. And this is kind of where you start to see cracks in Jod's story, right? They get away. He says that the X-Wings are bad. They're just going to do whatever. And this is where we start to get really mystery and intrigue that nobody knows where Ad-Atten is, and that's also a hidden. Whoa! How do you know where the coordinates of Ad-Atten? How do you know what that planet is?
Right, some people don't even think it's real.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it's
a hidden
like,
planet.
but again, it's like the pirate thing, like the legend of the Black Pearl. Like, oh, those are just stories. So yeah,
But is
I
it?
love, I really enjoyed the parallels to the pirate stuff.
Well, I thought that's what they did well. Yeah, they introduced the Jedi aspect, which we'll get to. But yeah, it's all about pirate. They're just trying to survive in this galaxy while these kids are blissfully unaware, and
Mhm.
people know the tales of Ad-Atten, and it's really interesting that nobody actually knows if it was real or not. You know, with the Empire and all of their countless, endless ways of resources, essentially, they never found Ad-Atten, which is a whole other interesting part to it. And I'm surprised we haven't got more of that owl lady everywhere, because everybody is, oh, this is so
Was
cute. That owl lady is so cute.
I think her name was Kim or something?
And
Quim? I wrote it down somewhere. We'll get to it.
and yeah, I mean, it was a lot of intrigue. And so they get away again. The kids get away with Jod, and they're also like, how many names do you have? Because they keep calling
I
him.
know, they're starting to be hesitant about him because
Well,
also they
yeah.
thought he was a Jedi, and, like, the kids still think Jedi are good,
Well, Fern's
even
calling
though
his BS at this point, and
yeah,
Wim's still sucked in because he thinks he's a Jedi, which I thought was great.
yeah. When Fern, like, so her mom, if her mom looked familiar to anybody, she's Kaylee's mom in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So, again, she
Oh,
plays
yeah,
like
yeah,
a,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, a single mom, so
Who
it
works
was driving me
two
nuts, I had to
jobs?
look it up.
Yes. And so episode 4, we get Can't Say I Remember No Atten. They end up on Akron. It's a bizarro Atten, the dangerous place where kids are trained as soldiers. All of the camel-looking creatures are stolen. Jod ends up taking all of the credits, buying them from the bad guys and saving the kids, because this is where the kids get kind of kidnapped by this group of people. Now, he earns their trust because he bought them back. Yes.
He earned my trust too in that scene.
He earned everybody.
I
He
was
got to
like,
rescue the kids.
he gave up all these credits to save the kids. But I mean, in my back of my head, I'm still like, well, because he knows he still needs the kids to get the ultimate treasure. He's
Yes,
still
he
using the
does.
kids. But he just seemed so like, oh, I just, I gave up all these credits that I otherwise could have
Listen,
stolen to
guys, I
save
could
you
have just
guys.
left and found it on my own, but I
And the
saved
kids like
you.
run to him. Like the kids have a sense of security with him. They're now looking up to him as a parent, as a
Mhm.
caretaker.
Oh, yeah.
And like, he really, man, he was a bamboozler,
He fooled
man.
us. He did. And, at that point, they find the temple. Fern figures out how to reset 33, who then says he has to kill anybody who asks about Ad-Atten, which is interesting because he's about to kill the kids, which is when Jod turns him off in the nick of time.
Which I love that. It's like, just do the off switch.
Yeah, where's the off switch? And it's. Have you tried turning it off, then back on again?
Right?
I but it adds a whole nother layer to this Ad-Atten mystery, though, and intrigue, because at this
Mhm.
point you're like, oh, he has to kill anybody who asks about it. What's the bigger story here? What's at play? And that's what's so great about this show at this point is it's a very much finding the treasure pirate story, X marks the spot, Goonies style thing where there's some danger, but it really just feels like a dad with his kids on a grand adventure at this point
Right.
of the story anyways,
And it's
which
more
one
than just treasure too, because some of the mystery is just literally just protecting people. Like the people on Atten aren't living these grand lives. If
No.
anything, they're living like mediocre nine to
If anything,
five.
they've
Like they're
also
living
been
the
making
American
themselves. Yeah,
dream.
they're living yeah. They're just working to create credits and for this bullcrap system. So why
But in
don't you go ahead and
comparison
go?
to other planets, they're doing
It
great. I
could
mean,
be
they're not
much
a slave
worse. How
on
many
Tatooine.
planets, yeah,
Their
are in
planet didn't
Corellia
explode like
destroyed
Alderaan.
because
Yeah.
of the Empire ruins any planet that they essentially go to. So take us into episode 6.
So zero friends again. Jod is taken by the pirates, and the kids manage to insanely escape on their own. Jod saves his own ass, though, by explaining that Atten makes the credits. So we learn that they are the mint throughout this
Are
episode at one point, and that's why there's so much treasure, because they're
gonna
literally
steal
just
the
making the
Declaration
money.
of Independence, baby.
So Jude Law or Jod is explaining to the pirates, like, aren't you sick of being hungry? Obviously using that as a metaphor,
Yeah,
like,
because he
because
gets
that's
captured again. Yeah.
yeah, pirates always want more. They need more. It's, they got to get all the hats, all the gold, all the treasure, all the women. He wants the redhead. So this ends up like saving his life because they don't throw him out
They were gonna, yeah, the werewolf
into
guy was
space
gonna
right
put him in
away.
the airlock and send him out, and that's
Werewolf
where he
guy.
gets he calls that, it's not parlay, but in my head, 'cause the
I
only
thought they
thing
did say did they say parlay?
it's not parlay, but he gets
They
to
were
basically make his case as
yeah,
to why he shouldn't. It's a
they
pirate
were
code.
following a pirate code. Yeah.
Yeah. They were
And
following the pirate code, and that's where he's like, "Aren't you tired of being hungry? I could take you to this planet. They know we the XYZ." And he suckers them into, "All right, we're all going at it, and come on, everybody, let's go."
right.
And
It's like the
sets up the
Ravagers.
final. Yeah,
It definitely got a
that's
Ravagers
actually a really
feel.
good point.
Yeah.
That's what I got, a Ravager's feel from them,
It's
for
like they
sure
killed
as
all
well.
my friends.
But the werewolf
So
guy's just a dick through and through at this point, no matter what. Which,
yeah.
I get it. He's a pirate, man. He's not everyone's supposed to be good.
Hondo's got some good in him, and he's a
I miss
pirate.
Hondo.
So I do want to talk about that once we're done talking about everything. So after they split up for a bit, the kids do come back together, and this is where we learn that KB is part cyborg because she had an accident. So I thought that was kind of cool too.
I
Very
did.
neat thing to
It's
do with Star
tragic.
Wars. Yeah. And obviously we don't find out what that accident was, but
Mhm.
like she's able to, have these cool gadgets and whatnot. And almost looks like LeVar Burton with her visor and stuff. But she, that's not ideally how she wants to be, and she sees herself as less in the eyes of Fern, even though Fern doesn't view her like that. So that was
Yeah.
cute. You could see the kids be vulnerable and have the kids split up, where like you had Wim and Fern, and then KB and
I
Neil. Like
like that they got to break up, and so Neil and Fern are climbing to go to the ship in the space junk area, right? Whereas KB and Wim followed the crabs to the big giant crab that reminded me of
so
Tamatella.
shiny.
Yes, yes, from
I was
Moana
waiting for
1.
him to start singing. Yes, I started laughing when we saw him.
Oh, man,
But I
but
love the crabs, the trash crabs, because they were using whatever they could. I really like that. I feel like that was kind of tragic, and like the sense of our own. We've seen animals use trash as shells, which is really
oh,
sad.
yeah. And there's a lot of cool things here too, because you really get to see Wim, he saves KB because she kind of coaches him through it, of course, but he has to go
Oh, Neil
in.
saves him. Oh yeah, no, it is Wim. You're
No, it was
right.
Wim because
That's
he's
right. And Neil
making the
followed
new,
Fern. Yeah.
she, like, pulled it out, and
Oh,
I
and did
forget,
the
it's like
pipe
a
and
core.
everything.
It got dirty and everything, so she was locking up. And so she's coaching him kind of through it. And it's very sad because she basically just feels like Fern takes advantage of her, not as a friend. If she says that she can't do the things that Fern can do, she feels like they won't be friends anymore. And as a kid, that actually hits pretty hard, because how many times do you just follow friendships as a child or when you're younger because you're afraid of losing friendships? The only friendship in her case that she has, which I think is its own tragic, sad type of story, because Neil and Wim are the only two friends that they have, Fern and KB. And so we kind of get that mixed culture a little bit where it just
Fern
is
and KB
sad.
were like the cooler older girls.
Right. I mean, well, Fern's kind of like the lead of the crew, if you will. She's the badass, She reminds me a lot of Princess Leia in that regard, in her
Mm.
attitude and spunk. And KB is, I want to keep up with her, man. I look up to her, and I feel like she looks down on me. So if I can't do these things, then she's not going to want to hang out with me. And then what do I have? I'm just a
You
half
could be
human,
super
half robot
smart
at this
too.
point, who, yeah. And she's very self-conscious about all that, which is very sad to think about as a kid, when you're putting yourself in these
Right.
kids' shoes. And so I thought it was really cool how Wim and her had this bonding moment, and it shows Wim's potential as well. And then we get the really cool bit with the Onyx Cinder, how they're trying to get away, And that
It
whole
was a little
time,
too convenient, though.
I mean, yeah, the
They're like,
outside of
"Just
the
shove that,"
onyx
'cause on
cinder,
the outside, it's looking like the ship's done for. Like, there's no way.
it's
You're
getting
seeing the
clawed
ship
away, but yeah.
crunch, and
And
then,
you're like,
yeah,
how are
they
they
just
flying? Even if they get away, the hull is compromised. How are they
right,
getting
they
away?
can't go into space with that. This
No.
is re and it's how convenient. It had an
And then it turns into
exoskeleton.
shiny. Yeah, they break through. It's the inside. It's got an exoskeleton on the outside. And it's this nice, sleek silver ship that would make Queen Amidala shed a tear for how nice and silver it is. And they get away in this grand escape, which was pretty cool. But did they actually escape? Because it turns out in episode
Dun,
7,
dun, dun.
we kick off with the parents straight up becoming felons because they're
And it's
trying.
but
Yeah,
I love that it's called "We're Gonna Be in So Much Trouble" is the name of episode 7.
I do too. Well, so like the parents are all straight edge, or in the regard that they don't want to break any rules. They're very much by the book, especially Fern's
Not Neil's
mom.
mom, though. Neil's mom's
Neil's
like,
mom's
"Fuck it
down to
all."
yes.
Yeah.
Neil's mom is a G. She is
She is like
down to
mama
do
bear.
whatever.
Mhm.
And Wim's dad is something happened in his past
Yes.
to make him
Something happened
cautious.
with the mom. I think the
Yeah,
mom must
we
have died
never got an
tragically.
explanation,
No, we didn't.
which
I
is
thought we were gonna meet the
interesting.
mom and she was gonna be outside the barrier or something. Like, I
Oh, I
thought,
thought we
like
were getting some sort of flashbacks, but we don't.
yeah.
So it's interesting. But yeah, from there they get tased. We even get I have a bad feeling as, the
Which
pirates
Neil's mom goes to say, and
and
then
then
she
she
gets
gets
tased.
we then have the pirates finding At-Atten. However, it just looks like a giant storm. Jod realizes they need the ship.
Maelstrom.
Sorry. They need the ship that the kids are on to get past the barrier. Because in the previous episode, the kids get away, trick Jod, all of that stuff. They get away on the ship. So they pull the kids in with their tractor beam. They take over their ship. Jod
They need
threatens
the
the
ship to
kids
get
with a
past the
lightsaber.
Maelstrom.
Yes.
I
He
love
pulls out
that.
his lightsaber. And I love that in the Star Wars, one thing I think they really got right was the sound of the lightsabers. I love how the lightsabers sound in modern day Star Wars films. It sounds heavy in a way, which is what
What they say it
lightsabers
all
are meant
is.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah, even
it was
these
supposed to be.
Disney ones are heavy. And like, oh shit, as I hit the
The
table.
Disney ones are heavy. They are very heavy.
But even like the actors will always say, like, when they're doing the scenes, like they're, they're metal, like they're thick.
Yeah, they are. And
I
that's what I
still
like.
haven't
I
gotten a
just
new
love that sound of
battery.
lightsabers. So
Zoom.
from there, the parents, they've got detained by the droids. Kids and parents, they send a little bit of a crew out there to go and see how they can get through the barrier, the pirate crew, and they get zapped as we find out that they have some man-made storms going on with these weird
Which that was really cool to see
electronic
it. Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're like zoom to make the and yeah, it's intentionally targeting anything that goes by except their own ship. So it really is like a genius defense mechanism.
It is. And as the kids break through with the Onyx Cinder, we see this beautiful planet. But that's when Jod shows back up and says, I'm taking control. He has his lightsaber again. And you're like, it was too easy. They come down to At-Atten. There it is. We found the secret to get through as the pirates are hanging out above, which takes us to the finale.
Start
So why
the
don't you run us through
invasion.
this finale sequence as we kind of talk about it?
So the finale is called The Real Good Guys. We learn the supervisor is just a giant droid himself.
Love
Jod
that.
takes it down with a lightsaber, and the pirates invade. What is he's like, commence the invasion or something like that. So KB
Yeah.
gets out of the barrier though to send a message to the Owl Lady, who I believe is called Quim, and she gets the X-wings to Atten like almost immediately. She even says like they're going to be there super fast. So they basically take the pirates out pretty quick, which she told them they were going to do. She's like, these people are great at like getting rid of pirates,
Yeah.
and the pirates flee. So when they think KB is dead, though, you actually see Jod look genuinely upset. And he even makes a comment about how he really didn't want anybody to die.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
Jod's whole thing was like, I didn't want anybody to get hurt. He just wanted the money.
yeah, he's not evil. He's selfish.
There's a big
Which
difference.
there, depending on how you be selfish, there is a big difference. So
Fair.
we get a little bit of his backstory, and we learn that he was rescued by a Jedi. So obviously he had a very shit childhood. He was abandoned or parents died. We don't know exactly, but a Jedi found him, sensed that he was very force sensitive, and I guess she must have started training him because he knew how to use a lightsaber as well, and he obviously knew how to use the force. But of course, she was taken down because of Order 66. And he even makes a comment how
Well, okay, so
the people who
the
took him down
Inquisitors basically
made him
find her.
watch.
Yeah, I think it's basically Inquisitors find them and kill her in front of him. And
And
I
they
believe
make
she
it,
was
yeah,
an
they make
Iranian
sure.
actress. I forget her name, but she filmed this whole sequence that ended up getting cut. But yeah,
What?
so he was being trained as a Jedi because she saw potential in him, much like he sees potential in Wim. I feel like you get that connection between those two, and so yeah, she
I
dies,
feel like
and
he
this
had more of
is
a connection with Fern.
well, I think he connected to both of them differently, right? I think Wim has potential and this fascination of the Jedi, which connects him to Jod, and then Fern has this captain, this
I'm not a
bolstering
kid kind of
personality. I'm not
thing.
a kid, no fear, which
Yeah.
also appeals to Jod because he's kind of that headstrong personality, kind of like Leia. That's where I get Leia from her,
Mm.
and she takes no shit from anybody. And so that's where I really get a lot of that from her. And but you can see the look of concern when KB's ship goes down. And then you can also see that look of almost proud when he doesn't go with them on the elevator, even though they say, "Hey, Jod, come on with us." They were giving him a chance.
Yeah.
And he just gives them like this look of proudness and goes off and they go down the elevator, which again shows I loved that because he's a bad guy, but in the sense of he's the villain of the show, but for selfish reasons. The guy has been through some shit. This is the galaxy now. The
He's never had
galaxy,
anybody else on his side other than that Jedi who he
no.
got to watch get
Yeah.
murdered.
She died. He has some Jedi abilities, but he just wants money because that's how you're going to survive in this world these days. The Empire was cruel and brutal, and so it kind of forged who he was going to be. And these kids have it, they're privileged more or less in this universe because they've been hidden this whole time, so they don't know any better. And
Right. They're very naive to the outside world,
exactly.
intentionally
Yeah.
so. But I mean, the parents even say, like, "We were going to tell you." It sounds like it's one of those things, like, once you get to a
When
certain
you're
age, we
18,
tell
kid.
you. Which makes sense. I mean, think of all the things we protect our kids from that we don't tell our kids about,
It's an adult
even
thing. It's this.
certain kind of characters that we like to. I am always so concerned I'm going to rat this person out. The season
Oh,
just
yes.
ended.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So even that, even though no children should be listening to this, that it's like we just protect our children from so much. We want to keep the magic alive as long as possible, but it's so hard to find that balance of keeping, them with their heads in the sand versus just protecting their innocence as long as possible. And I truly think the parents are just protecting their innocence as long as possible.
I mean, I
I
think so
don't
too. I agree.
They weren't expecting them to end up on a spaceship that was hidden under the forest and then took off. But so this episode ends though with Urkel's ship going down and credits are everywhere. All the children are okay. And then we see the X-Wings flying by as we leave.
And that's when Wim is kind of looking up with that sense of wonder and excitement too as the X-Wings are leaving because they swoop in. I thought that was cool. And it really makes me obviously I
Cool
don't
if we
enjoy the sequel movies. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they rushed them with no clear vision. Whereas now, as we go back and world build, we get a lot of potential. Because my main gripe with the
Mhm.
sequel movies is the New Republic is seen to be some sort of insurgency, which I don't think they should have ever had done. Because right here, they're showing them as they're liberating planets, they're the hopeful
Yeah,
beacon.
fighting the fire
But
pirates.
with the
Yeah.
First Order was seen to be basically the Empire that outshadowed the New Republic. I see. I don't agree with that because at this point, the Empire is so fractured that they were basically little insurgencies throughout the galaxy, and that's how it should have been flipped. But that's neither here nor there because now we're world building. I don't know if Wim's going to be a Jedi. I would like him to both be a Jedi and be a pilot because I think there's a
Right.
lot
He
of
can be
potential
a pilot even if he has
there.
no
Yeah,
force sensitivity or anything. He can still, fly an X-Wing.
yeah, I love that. I think Fern is a really badass character. I would love to see. So I hope these kids get to come back. I want to see more with Jod too because I'm glad he wasn't redeemed because Star Wars is
Right,
big
but is
on
he gonna
redemptions.
be in prison? Like, what are they gonna do with him? They
Well,
can't just let him
that's right. It
go.
left it open ended, right? And so I'm hoping we
Especially
get
because now
more.
he knows where Atten is. Like, that's a huge security risk.
Yeah, and they turned off the barrier. So what does that mean going forward for that planet? What does it? And so this makes you wonder as well, right? How many Jedi manage to get to a planet that was hidden like this? Are there a lot of Jedi still out there in the galaxy? Because that has bigger ramifications. If they had the technology to shield themselves from the Empire and from the galaxy
It
with
looks
this
like they went to
barrier
extreme measures to
technology,
do that, though.
right? But how many other planets do? Are we going to have a Jedi temple somewhere? Is
Mm,
that to me that excites me because I want to see
right.
some Jedi hiding out on these planets. What does that mean? And now, how does that fold
Well,
in
and
with
they
Ahsoka
still think
and
that the
Thrawn?
Jedis right, but they still think the Jedis are traitors too. They're like, "That's the last incoming transmission we got was that the Jedi were traitors."
Yeah,
So it's like,
right.
that's a
That's such a good
planet
thread right
is
there. Good point.
yeah, the whole I mean,
He
episode
did
4, 5, and
not.
6 doesn't even exist to them.
No, they don't know anything that happened, and also Jod didn't really help the Jedi case with the whole traitor bit. The way he went in there
Right.
trying to steal their
Well,
money.
okay, so I very much so loved the show, but I do feel like the finale felt a little flat at the end because I felt like there should have been more of that. Like, did these X-wings just come save the day and fly off, or did they land and be like, "Hey, welcome to the New
You
Republic.
do
Let's catch you
exist.
up." So I felt
Yeah,
like, are
that's
we
another good
supposed to
point.
assume these things happened? So again, I truly did love the show, but I felt like the very ending fell flat. Like it cut to the credits, and I was like, "Huh, okay, so that's how they're going to end the show that I genuinely loved week to week."
What happens next? There's so many things, right? That's a really good point. Is did the New Republic just okay, bye? Or is somebody gonna come down like Mon Mothma? Is she gonna she's still alive right now? Is she gonna come down to this planet and are we gonna get brought up to speed as to
Well,
what happened the last 45 years? Like
right, and what if they're still printing all this money, are they sending it off places? Because obviously these credits are still valuable. So have
yeah,
they
they're
had and they're
old
like, "Oh,
Republic
thank you
credits.
for
Where do they send it?
finally visiting us." And he's like, "Sorry it took so long." So when was the last time they had a visitor? Like, do they just have, like, cases ready to go to ship out? Aren't they curious, like, "Hey, what's going on? Why
Why are we
hasn't
printing
anybody
all this
showed up?"
money? What do we do with it? Like
Right.
an
Yeah.
emissary, two at the less. You know, I'm a New Republic emissary. So the New Republic has to I'm assuming the New Republic knows about them already and they've sent people there then? But then
I don't I
again,
but then
how
okay,
did the
so then
New Republic know about them, but the Empire didn't? You know what I'm saying? Like,
if
did
you
they send
had,
people
like
out the
but
barrier
did they
or
end up like, just killing all the people that knew about Atten? Because obviously a lot of people didn't know about it. So if you do implement
no?
Order 66, and obviously you're gonna have other casualties in that too, and is this like, because what was it in Andor? There was a lot of stuff about money and whatnot in the banks, and they were, had to
There
be very
was,
careful
yeah.
about
Well, that's how they
stuff.
funded well, they had to get the money to fund
Right,
the rep
Rogue One.
yeah, all the insurgencies and stuff that they did and fund their war because they had no money. And but you're right, is how does all that play into it?
I don't know. But what I did love about this show too is like after watching The Acolyte, which was entertaining but just fell completely flat week after week, I didn't have a desire to go back and watch everything, but like watching this, it like did make me want to go back and watch some stuff, which was interesting because we met nobody we already knew in this, did we?
No,
I
this
don't
is
think
they
we
were
knew
all new
anybody.
characters. No,
I think
these were all new
DJ
characters.
Rex was the only one that I was
No,
like,
yeah.
"Hey, Leonardo DiCaprio moment." Well, and when I saw Steve Urkel, but for different reasons. So I thought that like Hondo, I thought would have been a great
Oh,
person to
yeah, I
just
was
kind of
wondering,
connect
yeah, as the pirate,
things.
yep.
Yeah, but I also enjoy the fact that they did keep it completely but even when the X-Wing showed up, I'm like, "Are we gonna see a familiar face with the X-Wings
I
like we
was
did in
waiting for somebody
Mandalorian?"
familiar there too, yeah, but you're right, we didn't. Was it gonna be somebody? But we didn't. You're right, that's
Yeah,
a
the
really
one
good
guy
point,
that
I
we've
didn't
seen
think about
in
that.
because the one guy we saw in Ahsoka and Mando.
Yeah, I forget his name,
I
but
do
yeah,
too.
I know who you're talking about 100%. It is
Because he was talking to Zeb at that bar.
yeah, or I'm surprised we
Oh,
didn't
and
see
Zeb
Zeb
looked
fly in,
so
so
good.
maybe Zeb was in the cockpit, I'm kinda surprised there too, but
Oh
we
my
didn't see
god, could you
anybody.
that would have been cool. That would have been
Well,
cool.
that's the thing with
Probably
this
would
is
have
it
cost
got
a
us
lot.
talking. I almost feel like this got us talking and theorizing again. Which
Yes.
is not something that Star Wars has done for a while. Even in Ahsoka, we did a little bit, but I think there was still some issues with Ahsoka season 1
Yeah.
that didn't
Yeah.
quite leave a lot of people, and then The Acolyte got canceled because of low viewership right away. But now with this movie, everybody is amped. People are talking, and
Mhm.
that's what needs to happen. I'm really hoping the word of mouth pushes this movie.
Yeah. I think Ahsoka's failure was, they didn't do Thrawn properly, I don't think, which
I
is they had the
agree.
voice, but I just feel like Thrawn is such an amazing character, and they did not do him
Well,
justice in any way, shape, or form. If anything, he's more similar to Jod, where he's
yeah,
not, uh, good or bad. Jod though is not critically thinking everything through. I don't think he's unintelligent by any means. I think he's very intelligent, which is why he survived for so long. But he is through and through a pirate, whereas Thrawn is just so
Well,
intelligent, and they really dropped the ball there.
that's what I was saying. I really hope Thrawn is the big bad guy in the next trilogy, because I feel like they messed up not making him the big bad guy in the sequel
I
trilogy. They
might
could
go
have
dark
built it.
side if they do
They could
that.
have built up to that,
Ugh.
right? They really could have done. And so I'm hoping they kind of course correct, in the sense that maybe now that we're starting to get a lot of this filled in, who knows when Thrawn shows back for this galaxy, if he hides now that the First Order's gone, because he had nothing to do with the First Order. And it would be a
No.
mistake to make him have something to do with the First Order. And then clearly it doesn't pay off, because we know how it all ends.
But like, what the
So
frick was he doing on that planet for so long? That doesn't make any sense.
I'm hoping, my serious hope is that now that though Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are in charge, they are going to get a clear vision. And I think, and hopefully Thrawn is the big bad guy for the next trilogy. We get, maybe we're rebuilding the Jedi. I hope we get to expand on all of this stuff. But there's a lot to be excited for. I think for the first time in a while, this has me really excited for where Star Wars and the potential, because there really is so much potential in Star Wars. There really is.
Yeah. No, we do. And we do have a few fun facts. Not too many, though, but we
Oh,
got
hit
a
us with the
couple
fun
real quick
facts.
that I
Yeah.
want to go through. So John Watts and Jon Favreau both worked on this, and they also worked together on all 3 MCU Spider-Man movies.
Oh,
So
snap.
obviously, just think how much Jon Favreau has improved our lives.
Jon
Elf,
Favreau gave us Iron Man. He gave us
MCU, he gave us
Elf.
Grogu, cheese and rice, man. The guy,
Man,
guy does not get the credit he deserves.
really doesn't.
So
Slept on.
the kids were all asked who they would team up with if they could, like their character, and Neil instantly yells out Han Solo in this interview. I thought it was so cute. The KB actress said that she wants to be KB for Halloween. So the kids really seemed to like fall in love
The
with
kids
it.
were great too.
The volume screens were used, like we've talked about in
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mandalorian and Boba. So obviously that creates a feeling like you're really there. And the kids said that when they were doing the garbage scene where the garbage compactor is eating the ship, like it looked like they were about to like
Oh,
actually
that's
get
cool.
eaten
It's like a
by the
theme
ship.
park ride.
Yeah. So Jod Na Wood was a force-sensitive human male pirate who operated under many aliases, as we learned. One of them was Crimson Jack, Dash Zetton, Professor Umium Gorlox, Emissary, Jodwig Zank, or the, quote, Mad Captain Silva. So this led to a lot of people theorizing that Jod is from the comics because he gets called Crimson Jack, which you could see more than one pirate being
Yeah.
called Crimson Jack. Which is what Kim, here it is, KY-IMM, the owl, the owl lady, something like that. That's what it was. So this is straight from comicbook.com. I wasn't even going to try to paraphrase this. I'm just going to read the quote. Crimson Jack was a Legends character who appeared in the old Marvel Star Wars comic where he was a pirate. Crimson Jack would later appear in canon in the series. How do you say that? Halcyon Legacy?
Oh,
Halcyon?
Halcron? Yeah.
Halcyon? Okay. A comic that contains the backstory of Halcyon, the setting for Disney's now defunct Star Cruiser or Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, which the signs are still up if you want to, I guess, drive to the outside
They
of
are,
it. The
yeah.
signs are very much still up, pointing to the hotel. The story was set during the sequel era, decades after Skeleton Crew. There's no way that Jod could actually be Crimson Jack of that story, but it doesn't mean he isn't Crimson Jack, whatever that means. Kim calling Jod Crimson Jack brings up the mystery of who or what Crimson Jack is. Crimson Jack, good lord, they write Crimson Jack a lot.
Crimson Jack, take a drink every time.
Was a Legends character who appeared. Oh, did I double this? Oh, I double copied it. My bad. There you go. So there's no way to know if he's actually the comic book. But also the comic books and the books, I feel like they will make them canon and then make them uncanon.
They will. Yeah. They kind of just go with the flow. So I'm sure we're going to get a Jod podcast at some point. Or podcast, Jesus. Comic book. I'm sure we'll get a comic book connecting all this here in some point, without a doubt.
So Wim said his dad introduced him to A New Hope. This is the actor, not Wim himself, when he was 5. And Fern said her dad was freaking out the first day they were on set.
Oh, I love that.
Julod said this was a very different type of acting because there were so many droids and puppets, and he was not used to that. He also said he was starstruck when a Jawa walked by, which I love.
Would be too.
Jude Law learned there is no paper or buttons in Star Wars. There are also shots you can't do because they didn't exist in the 70s, and they try to keep some of the stuff consistent.
Okay, that's fun.
And my last fun fact is, like many people who are now in Star Wars, Jude Law grew up watching Star Wars and playing it on the playground.
I love that. Well, What are your final thoughts? I love this show. I would probably give it a 4.5 out of 5, just because there's a couple of things I wish we'd have got a little bit more, but overall, I think it's a really, really great show, and I want a sequel.
I side with 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was a great show. I just felt like the ending felt a little flat. I had a lot of questions still, but I don't think having a lot of questions is a bad thing at the end of
No,
something.
not at all.
But I do just feel like there should have been more of a
Some,
conclusion. It's like, when
yeah,
Disney fireworks end, when the fireworks are over.
for sure.
I
Absolutely
did not
agree.
expect
The
that to be the ending.
hats off to the child actors. I think they acted so phenomenally well, so well, which really helped the immersive experience. Jude Law in Star Wars, man, just feels right. I want to know more about all these secret planets. What else is out there in the galaxy? There's so much out there, and it really has me excited about Star Wars again for the first time in a while. So I hope they use this as a building block to build upon it. But that's what we have for Skeleton Crew. Let us know your thoughts. Come jump in our chat, patreon.com/HopsGeekNews if you want to support the show. 2 weeks, we are going to be at MegaCon Orlando, and we are going to be at Universal. We are going to be doing 2 panels at MegaCon. Come and find us. You can find our schedule. We have it posted out there. Social media accounts, Hopsgeek News, we are there all around. Come chat with us. Jump in our email, hopsgeeknews@gmail.com. And really, thank you for coming along with us. We'll talk to you guys next week. And cheers, everybody.